at least the version I teach. Part of some of this will look awfully familiar to you. You're welcome to stay and kind of take it as a refresher. For those that haven't taken my CSM, a lot of this will be new to you. To walk you through what we're going to talk about in this session, I'm going to start with some introductions. We'll do a quick review of the Scrum Master role, 5 things to look for in a Scrum Master, how to improve as a Scrum Master. We'll answer a series of questions, and I can tell you how to tell if your Scrum Master is doing a good job, and then the Scrum Master progression for solving problems. We'll do some Q&A at the end as well. If you have questions during this session, feel free to ask them or ask them in the chat. And we'll also do questions at the end as well. And we'll stop no later than 1 o'clock today. So we'll do a hard stop definitely by 1 o'clock. Let me introduce myself very quickly. My name is Richard Chang. I'm an Agile trainer and coach by background, and I've been a Scrum Master at a ton of places as well. I'm a member of the local and national Agile, Scrum, and PMI organizations. I have a series of certifications, and a lot of my work is in commercial as well as nonprofit, association, and government work as well. Here is my contact information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this and put this into the chat window. So in the chat window, you should have everything you see on the screen right now. Feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. Feel free to follow Next Up Solutions on LinkedIn. Also, these slides are available via my SlideShare account. All right, so let's talk a bit about the Scrum Master role first. So this circle right here represents the Scrum team. This dotted shape here represents the Scrum development team, product owner, and Scrum Master. What that means is open question to the group. Please type your answer. Actually, do this. In your participant window, everyone go to your Zoom controls and find your the button that says participant. Right. Once you find that button, click on the participant button. You should see a participant window. In your participant window, you should see some buttons that say yes, no, go slower, go faster, hands up. Let's test this out. Open question to the group. Right. This circle right here is the Scrum team, dev team, product owner, and Scrum Master. What that means is open question to the group. Is the product owner part of the Scrum team? Give me a yes in the participant window if you think they are. Give me a no if you think they are not. And let me know if you have a hard time finding the participant window. All right, I have one person found it. Anyone else? Give me a yes if you think the Scrum Master or the product owner is part of the Scrum team, and no if they are not. Okay, good, yeah. So they're part of the Scrum team. Is the Scrum Master? New question. Is the Scrum Master part of the Scrum team? Give me a yes in participant window if you think they are, and no if they are not. Okay, good, great. So they are part of the Scrum team. Now, different question to the group. Is the product owner part of the dev team? Is the product owner part of the dev team? Good. Is the Scrum Master part of the dev team? Okay, great. So as a bit of terminology, when we say Scrum team, it includes the product owner and the Scrum Master. When we say the dev team, it does not include product owner, does not include Scrum Master. So 3 roles in Scrum: Scrum Master, product owner, and dev team. And by dev team, it could be any team member, developer, tester, analyst, whoever it takes to get the job done, right? And then you have other folks outside the Scrum team, like subject matter experts, business sponsors, various other folks. So those are the roles in Scrum, right? Now, quick thing to note. Here are the 5 things I look for in a Scrum Master. Knowledge is an understanding of Agile and Scrum. Experience is having been a Scrum Master and having worked on Agile and Scrum teams before. Coaching is a deep understanding of how to work with folks to help them through their thoughts, through their issues, and work through their concepts and ideas. Facilitation is leading meetings, working with groups, working with individuals to help do brainstorming, help come to decision making. Right? And servant leadership is a deep sense of creating an environment where others can succeed, creating an environment where success can happen not because of me, but success can happen around me. Servant leadership. These are the 5 things I look for in a Scrum Master. So what I've done here is I've created a template for you. Here's my template. What you can do with the template is you can put a picture of your Scrum Master right here, put the Scrum Master name here, some relevant notes about them, and then you can rank them along these 5 dimensions. In my ranking system, I'm using a 1 through 5, but you can do whatever you want. 1 through 10, 0 through 100, A through F. It's up to you. So here's one, Sarah, the new Scrum Master. So here's some notes on Sarah. Sarah has been with the organization for 5 years, largely in the capacity as an analyst. 2 years ago, she joined the Portal Scrum team as a dev team member. Sarah has read several books on Scrum and gone to some of the Scrum user group meetings. So here's what I want you folks to do. I want everyone to read our rankings on Sarah to yourself. And as you do so, what I want you to think about is, would Sarah potentially be a good Scrum Master? So take a moment to read our narrative on Sarah and think to yourself, would Sarah potentially be a good Scrum Master? So think about that. Okay. Oh, as you're thinking about that, quick question to the group. Anna or Danny, are we recording the session?
Yes, we are recording the session.
Okay, great. Yes, just to let everyone know the session is being recorded. So heads up to everyone, the session is indeed being recorded. All right. Now, as you read this narrative about Sarah and think, would she potentially be a good Scrum Master? In your participant window, what I want you to do is give me a yes if you think like Sarah would potentially be a good Scrum Master. Give me a no if you think there's too many obstacles and Sarah would not potentially be a good Scrum Master. And give me a go slower if you think the answer is maybe. She might be a good Scrum Master. So in the participant window, give me either a yes if you think she'd be a good Scrum Master, a no if you think she would not, or a go slower if you think maybe. By the way, for those that can't find the participant window, if you find your Zoom controls, there's a button that says participant. Yep. I have a vote for maybe. Who else? Let's get a few more votes in there. Another one for maybe. Several for maybe. All right, so for these maybe votes, why did you vote maybe? Who's one of the maybe votes? Aisling, Ava, Jen. For the maybe votes, why maybe? Oh, and if you're trying to talk, you're on mute. For those that voted maybe, why maybe? What's the thought?
Hey, this is Ava. I think the experience is not there yet.
Okay.
She's on the right path, but not there.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, her experience is a bit light. Sure, that's a very good point, Ava. Yeah, anyone else? As you look through this, here's what you have. I mean, if you look through this, her knowledge is a 4. She's while she's not an expert, she's read a lot, soaked in the information, got a perfect score on her exam, probably took the class through me, right? So we gave her a 4 there. Her knowledge is pretty good. The experience, like Ava points out, she has some exposure and experience working on Scrum teams, but she's never actually been a Scrum Master. So we're going to rank her a bit lower there as a 2. The coaching, Sarah is a very good communicator. She has good collaboration abilities, but doesn't have any formal coaching experience or training. We'll give her a 2 there as well. Now, the facilitation, we're going to rank her a little bit higher there because she actually does have some experience facilitating several requirements gathering sessions and brainstorming sessions. But with that said, she doesn't have any formal facilitation training, and all her skills are just whatever she learned on the job. Her servant leadership, we're going to score her a bit higher there. Sarah has shown a great ability to get along with people, and she has a focus on creating an environment of success and is happy to enable success of those around her. So we're going to rank her a bit higher there as a 4. So I think the maybe answers are good in that in this example here, what we have is we have someone that while not perfect, oftentimes we don't have the luxury of hiring the perfect person. I think there's a lot of goodness here that makes her potentially a good Scrum Master, but certainly she's not ideal, right? She's a bit green. So if that happens, what do we do when we have a Scrum Master that's a bit green? How do we grow them? So then that begs the question of, What do we do if we don't have the perfect Scrum Master? So here are some ideas. First, obviously, is training. So I would definitely recommend starting with a certified Scrum Master course. By the way, in the participant window, give me a yes if you've taken the certified Scrum Master course before. Give me a no if you have not. I recommend the CSM for everyone. It's in essence your Agile and Scrum 101 and deep dive. If you haven't taken that, take that first. That's going to get you in a really good place. Now, these next set, the advanced CSM, the Agile coaching, Agile facilitation, you can do those in any order you like. The advanced CSM gives you more context on how to be a Scrum Master, more advanced techniques and tools, and helps you work through your experiences. The Agile coaching type course will just train you on coaching techniques and patterns and gives you practices coaching different scenarios. Same with the Agile facilitation course. It teaches you about classic facilitation techniques and roles. In facilitation, you have facilitator, scribe, observer, participant, and it really gives you a deeper dive into facilitation. The CSPSM is a great course, but don't take the CSPSM unless you already have a couple years of experience as a Scrum Master. If you take the CSPSM class cold, it'd be like taking a Russian 5 class, having never spoken Russian before. You'd spend the entire time just lost and confused. So the CSM class is great once you have some experience as a Scrum Master. So these are great training courses I recommend to improve your knowledge and insights. What I also recommend to grow as a Scrum Master is mentoring. Find a highly skilled Scrum Master or Agile coach to work with the Scrum Master to help the Scrum Master shorten the learning curve and to really kind of get that expert level knowledge understanding kind of further ingrained into them. Right? Along with that, I love the concept of pairing. The biggest difference between pairing and mentoring is having someone that's a Scrum Master working with someone that's more advanced or skilled. That's mentoring, where you have a less skilled person learning and growing from someone that's more skilled. In a pairing environment, what you're doing is you're finding someone that having two people that are relatively aligned in terms of their capabilities and skill sets. And then a pairing environment, they're learning and growing from each other. Right. So the biggest difference between mentoring and pairing is mentoring is a more skilled person is helping fast track and grow a more junior person, whereas pairing is two or more folks that are relatively equally skilled, learning and growing together. I think pairing is great. Having another Scrum Master of similar skill sit in my retrospectives, sit in my daily Scrums, we'll compare notes, we'll ask each other what we saw and give advice to each other. I think that's fantastic. Along with that is going to conferences and events. A lot of them are virtual. Most of them are virtual now. So there's some great ones. There's a virtual Agile Summit that happened earlier this year, and there's no one planned for next year. The Agile 2021 conference, I know is going to be virtual. I believe it's being held in July. The global Scrum gatherings will likely be virtual. It was supposed to be in Denver, and local conferences and events. Oh, by the way, speaking of local, let's do this. Everyone in the chat window, if you find your Zoom controls, you can find a chat window. I want you to type in where you are calling in from. So for example, I'm calling in from Reston, Virginia. Type in where you're calling in from. I want to see where everyone's located. UK, awesome. Ireland, great. Oh, that's great. Austin, Stafford, great. Wilmington, Delaware. People, this is international. We have people from Ireland, from UK, from Virginia, from Delaware, from Texas. So there are great user groups all over the area. So in London, there's, I know, definitely a very active Agile, several active active Agile and Scrum user groups. In Ireland, there is one as well. Delaware, I'm sure, has one. Ukraine, I think, has one. I know there's definitely a strong Agile presence in Ukraine. And so finding your local user groups. Actually, you don't even have to find local user groups. What am I saying? At this point, all the user groups are meeting online virtually, so you can access any of the user groups you want. Oh, which is one of the recommendations coming up as well. But on top of that are books. Some good books for Scrum Masters, in particular, Agile Coaching by Lisa Atkins. The name is actually spelled YLSSA, Atkins. Right. You can just type in Coaching Agile Teams is the name of the book. She just recorded her book on audiobook earlier this year, so it should be on audiobook soon. Essential Scrum by Ken Rubins, another great book. Agile Retrospectives by Diane Larson, Esther Derby, great books for Scrum Masters. Websites. There's a lot of great websites out there. A couple places I recommend to start at, the Scrum Alliance website, scrumalliance.org. There's some great information there. ScrumMasterChecklist.org is a great website. I'll reference that more later. Our own website, nextstepsolutions.com, is another great one. We have a blog area that has a ton of information. User groups, I mentioned this earlier, finding local user groups. At this point, you can find user groups wherever you want since they're all being attended virtually. And if you work for a company that's really trying to implement Agile concepts, starting an internal Agile or Scrum Master community of practice, so all your Scrum Masters and Agilists can learn and grow together. You can bring in speakers, do lunch and learns. And this past year, I've spoken at the John Deere Agile Community of Practice. I've spoken at the Progressive Insurance Agile Community of Practice. I've spoken at the Motley Fool Internal Community of Practice a few years ago. So communities of practice are great places where you as an organization can work together to help each other learn and grow within the organization. So these are all great ways to get your Scrum Masters in a better place as you're trying to grow them. Right. Now, once again, here are the 5 things I look for in a Scrum Master. There's a quote I added. A good Scrum Master is always on the verge of being fired. It's from Ken Schwaber, one of the founders of Scrum. Why do you think that is? Right. If anyone has an idea, feel free to put yourself off mute and let me know. Why do you think a good Scrum Master is always on the verge of being fired? Any ideas, any thoughts as to why that might be?
If invisible.
I'm sorry, say that one more time, please.
Sorry. Well, they train up the team to be so self-sufficient that they become invisible.
You know, that's not a bad answer. It's actually it's something we'll talk about. That's okay. That's certainly one perspective. I would say this, so I think that's a good answer because I think it's a sensible answer in that once a team gets better and better, we don't need a Scrum Master so much day to day. But even with that said, once that happens, the Scrum Master can focus on other things like working with the organization or better practices. I'll come back to that one. I think that's a good answer. But what I've found is in organizations that really get continuous improvement, as the teams get better, we need the Scrum Masters even more to get us to the next level. I'll talk more about that towards the end of this module. Yeah. What's another reason why a good Scrum Master is always on the verge of being fired?
They tend to be the ones that have to sort of be courageous in regards to speaking to leadership and sort of getting everyone on board with, you know, deliverables in the way that they're executing. So they tend to always be in a courageous position and consistently pushing back if they need to. Yeah. So what happens, I mean, that's a good answer too, right? So what happens here is remember the 3 pillars of Scrum are transparency, inspection, adaptation, which means as a Scrum Master, I'm creating an environment that has radical transparency. So we have great clarity into our system. Once we have great clarity, we need to be able to look into our system to understand what we're seeing, right? That's the inspection. And once we inspect, we can't unsee what we've seen. I need to then be able to adapt the system to really be able to take advantage of our strengths and really work through our areas of weaknesses, our gap areas, right? Now, the problem is that individuals, teams, and organizations tend to gravitate towards a status quo, and change is not always comfortable. Adaptation is not always comfortable to individuals, teams, and organizations. But as a Scrum Master, I'm creating an environment that's going to expose our issues and really force us to look in and change. That's not always comfortable for everyone, and it can be very challenging, right? Which is why all these 5 points above really is what we need from a Scrum Master to be able to do this in an effective way while not actually getting fired, right? We'll talk a bit more about those concepts as well. Yeah, so great answers from both the folks that gave these answers. Now, a couple other thoughts. Thought for the folks. Is the Scrum Master a full-time position? Should I be a Scrum Master across multiple teams? In the chat window, I want you to type in your answers. So give me like a no, no, yes, 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 no, no, yes, maybe, maybe, maybe yes, maybe no. Give me whatever you think the right answers are in the chat window.
Is the Scrum Master a full-time position? Should I be a Scrum Master across multiple teams? No, yes. Yes, depends. Yes, maybe. I like the maybe answer, depend answers. Those are always good, safe answers. Those are consultant answers. Not necessarily, not preferred, but can happen. Okay. So let's talk about this. I think to answer these two questions, this is best answered once we understand what a Scrum Master does day to day. So, open question to the group. You can feel free to type it in the chat or answer verbally. What does a Scrum Master do day to day? What's one thing a Scrum Master does day to day? What's one thing a Scrum Master does day to day? Coach? Coach is good, but it's a bit broad. Give me a more pointed example. Coach is good. It's a bit broad. Give me a more pointed example.
Removes impediments.
Removes impediments. That's good too. It's a bit broad as well. Give me a more detailed example. It's a good answer. It's a bit broad though. Give me a more. Give me an example.
Daily stand-up or daily scrum keeps it within 15 minutes.
Yep.
And keeps it on track.
That's a good answer. Keeps the daily scrum on track, keeps within 15 minutes. It's a good answer. The only problem with that answer is a daily scrum. Is that Iceland? Am I saying that right? Is that who was speaking?
No, Ashling's my name, but no, I wasn't speaking. No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
You're right.
Here you go.
So it's Joe.
Who was it again?
Joe.
Joe? Yeah, Joanne. Thank you, Joanne. Yeah, so I think daily scrum is a great answer. It's 15 minutes, so now I have 7 hours, 45 minutes left in the rest of my day. Facilitate relationships between product owner and dev team, that's a good answer too. And I think you guys hit upon a lot of the answers, right? Facilitating events like daily scrum, coaching the teams through different concepts, facilitating relationships between product owner and dev team. So those are all good answers. The way I like to think of it is this is from the ScrumMasterChecklist.org website. It's a great website. If you haven't seen it, go visit it. It's run by a Agile trainer based out of the West Coast, Michael James. So he breaks this out into 4 key dimensions. Dimension number 1 is how's the product owner doing, right? So what happens is when a product owner comes to our Scrum team, I don't expect them to be great at Scrum, right? We expect the product owner to understand the product really well, to understand who our user base is very well, to understand what our users want from the product, to understand what the organization wants from the product, to understand our product goals, our product needs. That I expect the product owner to know, right? But the problem is product owners sometimes come in and they'll say stuff like this. They'll say stuff like, hey, all 100 of these requirements are all top priority, just get it all done, right? A lot of product owners have no idea how to write a user story, have no idea what a vertical slice is, right? Product owners won't have an idea to create a prioritized product backlog with the most valuable, impactful capabilities at top, lesser important capabilities at the bottom. A lot of product owners don't tend to say yes to all our stakeholders, right? So what happens if leadership says they want something right away? What does product owner do? Product owner automatically say yes. Product owner automatically say no. What does a product owner do about that, right? What happens if a developer says they need to spend a week refactoring a database? What does a product owner do? Product owner automatically say yes. Product owner automatically say no. What do you do about that, right? Product owners generally may have never worked with a product backlog or a sprint backlog or burned out charts before, right? And so it's the Scrum Master's job to really help the product owner understand how to be a product owner, how to do refinement, how to create vertical slices, how to create user stories that are completable within a week or less, right? That isn't necessarily stuff the product owner knows day one. So as Scrum Masters, our job as Scrum Masters is to help the product owner do that, right? That's very time consuming. Every place I've ever been as a Scrum Master, I end up having a deep relationship with the product owner just because I work so closely with them, right? So that's part of the job, is working with the product owner. Then part of the job is working with the dev team, right? Now what happens is on your dev teams, right? Here's what happens. Some dev teams will say stuff like this. They'll say, hey, if we're doing Scrum now, we're not writing documentation anymore. Other dev teams will say, hey, we're doing Scrum now, so we're not giving estimates anymore. Dev teams might say, hey, we're doing Scrum now, so we're not working to due dates anymore. Well, that's not exactly how Scrum works, right? So we got to work with the team on that. I've had dev team members say to me this. They said, hey, how about we do this? How about someone give me all the requirements? No one talks to us for 6 months. We'll give you the product, right? What do we do about that, right? What if I have some dev team members that no matter how big something is, the answer is 3 days. How long is it going to take you to do something? 3 days, right? Some dev team members will say stuff like, we're going to self-organize. And by self-organizing, you over there, you only do the requirements. I'll only do the front-end code. This other person only does back-end code. This other person only does testing. And if we play it right, we'll never have to talk to get to each other. That's not how Scrum works either, right? And so as a Scrum Master, we got to work with our dev teams to make sure they're really well aligned with understanding how Scrum works. Some dev team members will gravitate really quickly towards these concepts. For other Scrum team members, it might be a bit more, they may be further away from these concepts. In fact, hopefully this isn't the case with you, but you might have some dev team members that have been hiding in the shadows the whole time. And with Scrum, there's no more hiding the shadows. So when that happens, we got to figure out, what do we do about that? All that is time consuming as well, right? And then we have the organization itself, right? What you'll find is you can do Scrum pretty well at the team level, but eventually the organization starts becoming an impediment if they're not well aligned. For example, what if we're doing Scrum, that other team over there is doing waterfall? We're ready to integrate now. They won't be ready to integrate for 3 months. What do I do about that? Right? What do we do if leadership says, hey, we need you to do Scrum, but make sure you lock down all your requirements before you start and don't change them once you start? Well, that's not Scrum, right? What do I do if I have a Scrum team, but all my team members are split across 2 or 3 teams? Scrum can't work effectively that way. What do we do about that, right? And so what happens here, what happens here in terms of the organization is that getting the organization aligned to understand these concepts, that's a lot of work as well. Right? And then finally, out of this list is, how are the engineering practices going? Right? This obviously applies more if you're working with teams that are developing IT digital solutions, but you don't have to be a former developer to be a good Scrum Master, but you have to keep up with 21st century engineering concepts. For example, when teams come up to me and say, hey, we need more testers or we need more time for testing, what that usually means is there's not a lot of automation in place. When teams say, we don't have time to do test automation, what they're really saying is, we as a team don't understand the concepts very well, or we don't have a lot of experience doing it. Because any developer that's ever been in an environment with heavy test automation, they know that any time we spend on the front end writing the tests, pay back tenfold on the back end when we run the test. Right? I have to work with enterprise architects to convince them, don't build all the architecture up front, build just enough now with using the roadmap to understand what we're building towards. Right? All that takes a lot of time. So as a Scrum Master, all these pieces here are very time consuming. So here's the answer to the questions. The answer to these 2 questions right here: is the Scrum Master full-time position? Should I be a Scrum Master across multiple teams? Here's the short answer. Short answer is a Scrum Master a full-time position? Yes. Should I be a Scrum Master across multiple teams? Short answer is no. Now, longer answer. Longer answer is this. If you have a highly skilled Scrum Master combined with very mature Agile teams, combined with a very well-aligned organization in terms of Agile concepts, then for these first 2, you have more options, right? But if any one of these 3 isn't true, then I would keep it more one-to-one. For example, if my Scrum Master is very new and green, obviously don't give that Scrum Master more than one team. They're very new and green. Let them grow on a single team until they get more mature. If you have a team that's just starting off, learning how to work together, and don't understand Scrum very well, then that's going to be a lot of work. Keep that Scrum Master focused on that team until that team gets in a very good spot, right? And let's say the team's very experienced and the Scrum Master very experienced, but the organization just doesn't get it, then keep that Scrum Master focused on that one team, but also work with the organization to get them better, more aligned, and in a better place with Agile concepts. Any questions about these concepts so far? Three more questions for you. Should I be a Scrum Master and product owner? Should I be a Scrum Master and dev team member? Can a project manager be a good Scrum Master? In the chat window, type in your answers to all three. No, no, no. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, no, yes. No, yes, yes. Yes, yes, no. Maybe, maybe, maybe. In the chat window, type in what you think the answers are for all three of these. No, no, depends. Depends. Yes, no, no. No, no, yes. Here's the concept. For the first one, can I be a Scrum Master and Product Owner? That is considered the cardinal sin in Scrum. It's one of those things that if you did a bunch of stuff differently, having the Scrum Master and Product Owner be the same person is one of the things that we strongly recommend against. Couple reasons. One is this picture right here. As a product owner, we're really focused on maximizing the value of the product, trying to build the right thing. As a dev team, we're trying to build it right. There's kind of a natural tension there, and the Scrum Master is there to ensure that the tension is healthy, right? The danger is if those two sides get overbalanced, right? You no longer have an effective balance. Kind of like the way the government's supposed to work here in the US, the way it's supposed to work. We have our executive, legislative, and judicial branches. No one's the boss of anyone else, and the three branches are supposed to act in harmony to create effective government. That's the concept, and it's the same concept here. The danger is if the Scrum Master gets too far into the product owner or dev team role, it just throws the whole thing out of whack. So don't do that. The other reason why we don't do that, I'll tell you a quick story. I have a person that does my yard, my landscaper. I have a person that does my teeth, my dentist. Guess what they are? Take a guess. Guess what those two people are? Guess what those two people are? Right. The correct answer is they're two different people, right? You know why they're two different people? Because if they were the same person, I would fundamentally question two things. I would question their life choices and my decision-making capabilities. Why are they two different people? Right? Open question to the group. Why is my dentist, my landscaper, two different people? Why do you think that is? Why is my different skill sets? Exactly, right? It's different skill sets, different perspectives, right? Two different people. In fact, anyone here know who Johnny IV is? So Johnny IV was the longtime Apple iPhone product manager. He left Apple last year. That means in theory, that job is open. That job pays multi-million dollars a quarter, so definitely apply for that job. However, the thing is, if you apply for that job, it's highly unlikely you're going to get that job because whoever gets that job, right, will be one of the world's leading experts on the smartphone market, right? Whoever gets that job, which will probably be either an internal transfer from Apple or they're going to steal someone from Samsung or steal someone from Google Phone. It's going to be one of the world's leading experts on the smartphone market. They'll understand who all the competition is. They'll understand who the user base is. They'll understand what the landscape looks like 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line. In their free time, they go to smartphone conventions. They read about smartphone market. They have subscribed to smartphone trade journals, right? That's their passion. That's your craft as a smartphone market. As a Scrum Master, your passion and craft is Scrum. You learn about Scrum. You learn about Agile concepts. You go to all the Agile conferences. That's your passion and craft. It's two different skill sets, two different perspectives. So for this first one, should I be a product and Scrum Master? No. Should I be a Scrum Master and Dev team member? Same concept, right? It's two different perspectives. And I've been a Scrum Master and product owner and Dev team member before, right? And the problem is that I end up doing both jobs poorly. We don't have effective retrospectives. We don't have daily Scrum meetings. We don't see ourselves improving because I'm wearing both hats and neither job is getting done well. We would say no here too. Right. Now, can I be a project manager and good Scrum Master? The answer here is maybe. It goes back to these 5 points here, right? Do I satisfy all 5 of these points well? If so, I could potentially be a good Scrum Master. If not, I'd have to do more work to be a good Scrum Master. Now, with that said, the point that ends up being very tricky on this one is number 5, servant leadership. Meaning this, if you're a traditional project manager where your approach to the job is, look, my way or the highway. I say things, everyone does it, right? Either do it my way or you don't, or you just leave the team, right? And I feel by force of will alone, I can make success happen because of me. You're not very well aligned to servant leadership, and that project manager's transition to be a Scrum Master would be a much more difficult transition. Right? On the other hand, if you're in a project manager where your perspective to do the job is you create an environment of success, right? Where you create an environment where success doesn't happen because of you. In fact, you've set it up so that success can happen in spite of you. Where what you do day to day is you go to your team members and you say to them, hey, what can I do for you today to help you succeed, right? And you don't need to be center of attention, but you want to create an environment where success can happen and everyone else can get the attention, right? Then you have a great sense of servant leadership, and your alignment to be a Scrum Master would be much better aligned. So for this one here, whoops. For this one here, the answer is no with 2 exclamation marks. This first one's considered a cardinal sin. The answer here is still no. I don't have the exclamation marks. And for the last one, it's maybe. And a big part of that is going to be working through, your ingrained sense of servant leadership ends up being one of the biggest things project managers have to do, along with getting the experience and knowledge and skill sets. So what that means is this. Any of these variations, Scrum Master as dev team member, product owner as dev team member, both, or product owner and Scrum Master being the same person, you could choose to do that, but all these make you slower and increase risk, right? And so by keeping the Scrum Master more one-to-one, it helps kind of address that friction in your system as well as the risk. Yeah. Any questions about those concepts? How can you tell if your Scrum Master is doing a good job? Here's how you can tell. Is your team making the same mistake time and time again? If you find that your team is always making the same mistakes, that's a problem. Or are you in an environment where a team makes a mistake, maybe they make it once or twice, but then they realize, wait, this is a systemic mistake we keep making. We'll put in plans and practices in place to address that. That's great. Are we encountering the same issues time and time again? People will ask me, they'll say, what's the difference between a mistake and an issue? A mistake is where we as a team did something that created a result or effect that we did not intend. We consider that kind of a mistake. Whereas an issue where something's happened that we as a team didn't directly create, but we still have to deal with it either way, I would categorize that more as an issue, right? So if we have the same type of issues arising time and time again, that's a problem. Or are we in a place where when issues arise, we start recognizing that as a systemic issue and we put plans and practices in place to address that? That's great. And are we getting better over time? Look, good and bad are relative terms, right? I'm not saying you're a good team or you're a bad team. Truth is, when we're doing Scrum, all teams probably do some things well. And it's important as a team to recognize what we do well and celebrate that and maximize that. All teams, no matter how mature they are, can be doing things better, right? And so then over time are we continuously getting better over time, or are we stuck where we are, right? What you'll see with a good Scrum Master is they're not making the same, your team is not making the same mistakes time and time again. That team is not having the same issues time and time again. And you can see the team's getting better over time. If all this is true, I'd say your Scrum Master is doing a great job. But if any of this is not true, then I would talk to the Scrum Master about why that is happening. Right? Now, when I talk to the Scrum Master about why that is happening, here is the Scrum Master progression for solving problems. Let's say I'm an executive. Let's say we have a Scrum team that has an issue that's been bugging them, that's been hitting them for several sprints now. For example, let's say we have a team that for the past series of releases, their defect rates are way below our company standards. Right? And it's been happening now for several releases. So as an executive, I might approach a Scrum Master and say, hey, Scrum Master, what's the deal with these defect rates? Here's what I would ask. Have you talked about this in your retrospective? Did you discuss the impact? If it's not impactful, don't worry about it. If it's very impactful, need to address it right away. Did you identify why it's happening? Have you come up with an initial solution? Did you try this initial solution? What were the initial results? What are the next steps from here? Items 1 through 4, that's what the Scrum Master will work with the Scrum team in the initial retrospective where they talk about the issue. Items 5, 6, and 7 happen in the following retrospectives where they identify, did our solutions address the issue? Here's what you'll find. If you ask the Scrum Master these questions, right, effective Scrum Masters will have really good talking points to all this, because as a Scrum Master, that's how I'm working with the teams to work them through their problems. Any Scrum Master that's going to bumble and fumble their way through these series of questions, they're still maturing as a Scrum Master. It probably just means they're still a bit green as a Scrum Master. And if they're a bit green as a Scrum Master, work through this list of stuff to get them to a better place. Any questions about this? All right, well, a couple closing notes. One is come to our training course to learn more. Here's a list of some of the courses we have. Come to our websites to learn more about our training classes. And once again, here is my contact information. I'm going to copy and paste this and put this back into the chat window. So for those that join late, can have access to it as well. I want to thank everyone for their attention and involvement, and I'll hang out for a bit to see if there's any general questions or thoughts. Any general questions or thoughts from the group? Well, if not, thank you for your time and attention today. Feel free to grab the slides. They're available on my slide share. Oh, here's one. Hi, Richard. Can you go back to the second to last PowerPoint? Sure. Second to last PowerPoint. Do you mean this one, the list of classes, or do you mean this one? Vic, which one are you looking for? Slide 25? This one, yes. Go ahead, Vic. Do you have a question or just want to see the slide? If you want to just see the slide, yeah, I can copy and paste this into the window as well. Whoops, that copy and paste lost a bit of the formatting, but you can also get it from my SlideShare website. From this, you can download the slides from my SlideShare account as well. Any other questions? All right, well, thanks everyone for their attention. Anna, do we have any closing notes we want to share before we call it?
No closing notes, but thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your, what's today? Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everyone's. Have a great week. Thank you all very much.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, team. I'll see the rest of you in about 13 minutes. Actually, no, I'll see the rest of you tomorrow. Anna, that's right. You helping me tomorrow?
Yes, I'll be supporting you tomorrow.
Awesome. I'll see you then.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Sounds great.
Bye.
All right. Bye.